Hello class, welcome to lesson 11 in unit 3 on unit rates and percentages. Okay, so today we're going to continue using our double number lines to work with percentages, but things are going to get a little bit more complicated. So let's take a look at the situation that we have here. 3-day biking trip. Elena biked 8 miles on Saturday. Use the double number line to answer the questions and be prepared to explain your reasoning. Okay, so question number 1 says, what is 100% of her Saturday distance? Well, this is actually very easy if you understand what 100% means, right? 100% means the whole thing. So her Saturday distance, how far did she go? What was the entire distance she traveled on Saturday? They've already told us. It's 8 miles. So what we can do is we can go ahead and mark our double number line with that. Okay, so we can go ahead and put 8 above 100. Here's 100. So 8 is going to go right here. Put 8 right there. I'll make it small so it fits easily. All right, there we go. So 8, that's 100% of her distance. We'll also go ahead and add that in here. It is 8 miles. It's the whole thing. All right, so on Sunday, she biked 75% of her Saturday distance. How far was that? Okay, so now this is where it gets trickier. If you remember with the coins, if it was 75% of a dollar, then it was just 75 cents, or we call that 0.75. That was because it was out of 100, right? This is not out of 100, because if you look here, 100%, it's not 100, right? Like it was 100 cents before, it's 8 now. So it's different. Okay, so we have to use some other strategies here to do this. And there's a couple of different ways that you can go about this. Let me share with you one that I like. Okay, if I think about this here, if I remember with using double number lines, remember if we wanted to try to see how we could move from one spot on the number line to another, same way with tables, we're going to see what are we going to multiply or divide by to go from one spot to the next. And when you think about going from 100% to 75%, that could be a little bit tricky. Okay, so I want to see if there's something else I can do that might help make things easier. So remember on the earlier slide, we showed you Frogger. And you can see here, here's Frogger. And the idea was that the best way to get from one spot to another isn't always to just take a straight line right there. Sometimes you have to hop sideways a little bit and kind of move around, and then eventually it's going to be safe for you to be able to make the leap to the other side, right? So that's the idea here. Sometimes if you try to go from 100% to 75%, you may end up making a mistake because it's a little bit tricky. So instead of doing that, let's think about what else we can do instead. So let's say we want to go from 100% to 50%. Well, that's actually can be pretty easy to understand. We go from 100% down to 50%. We're just cutting it in half, right? 50% is 1/2. So that's the same thing as dividing by 2, right? So if we want to see what number is going to go here on this mark right here, we're just going to take this number and we're going to do the same thing. So if we divide here by 2, then we're going to do the same thing here. When we make this jump, remember we're going to this mark here, the one that matches up here. So for this one here, we're going to divide by 2. It's the same thing, right? Well, what's 8 divided by 2? 8 divided by 2 is 4, of course. So we can go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and actually erase this here so it's a little bit easier to see. And we're going to go ahead and mark this as 4. All right, and then let's see if we can make a little bit better sense of what's happening here in the number line. We have 4, and then we skip 1, and then we have 8. Okay, we look at the percentages here. From 50% to 100%, right? We're doubling that. Can you see how 75% really is halfway in between 50 and 100? Think about it like with quarters, right? 50 cents would be 2 quarters, and 100 cents or a dollar would be 4 quarters. And if you had 3 quarters, that would be 75 cents, right? So 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters. So this is halfway in between these two. So if we look up here, what number is halfway between 4 and 8? You guessed it, it is 6. We can call that 6. All right. So that actually answers our second question, right? She biked 75% of her Saturday distance. How far was that? It was 6 miles. So we can add that in right here. 6 miles. All right. Now, let's take a look at the double number line here and see if we can notice any patterns and see if we can fill in the other values, because it's always good to be able to fill in as many values as we can, so we have as much information as possible. Okay, so between 0% and 50%, can you see where 25% would be half of that, right? What's halfway between 0 and 4? It is 2. All right, not 3, and not 32. 2. All right. So now if you look at the number line we have up here on the top line, we have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. What do you think would be next? Yes, you guessed it. It is 10. All right, 10 goes there. And as it turns out, that's going to help us answer the next question here. It says on Monday she biked 125% of her Saturday distance. How far was that? Well, we can see it's 10 miles, right? And if they wanted us to find out for 150%, we know that's going to be 12 miles, right? We know that, okay? But so for the answer for this question number 3, we know it's going to be 10 miles. All right.